the green machine. We hit them hard, so they see green.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. BJ on Game Day for another week. No video for the boys this week because OBS is a piece of shit. But we've got Adro and Brent. How you doing, fellas?
Evening, Bogan. Even Ados. How are we?
Good, mate. Good, mate. I'm a piece of shit too, so it's fine. Me and the video. But, yeah, good to be on. How are we all?
Yeah. It feels like it's been forever. A couple of weeks. But, yeah, no footy last week. Good result in the Origin, though.
Yeah, it's been big. I guess quick shout out the last couple of weeks. I've been a bit MIA as well, but shout out to the boys in the last couple of weeks, especially you, Ados, steering the ship for us, mate, the last couple of shows. But shout out to Clemmy and Kando as well. Yeah, thanks for carrying me, boys, because we couldn't do it without you. So, really good show last week. I enjoyed that. And yeah, no footy, but Origin over the weekend, and it was an absolute smash up, boys. What do we reckon? How good was that?
I'll break the awkward silence. Apart from Nathan Cleary, fucking, it was an excellent result. I say we have the fucking third game in fucking Queensland so we can beat them 3 times up there.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Queensland, and mate, it's been fucking brilliant to be up here after an absolute bloody hammering. And you know, like I was here in all the tough times when it was 8 in a row and the dynasty was on with Queensland, and it has a feel of that now with New South Wales. And it was just, you know, like, I mean, Queensland came out really hard for the first 15, and I think I said on a few of the chats, you know, they're going to get gassed because they just don't have the all over the park talent, you know, and engine that New South Wales have. So they got the job done. They got it done resoundingly, and it's just a great time to be a New South Wales supporter.
Absolutely, boys. And, you know, the stats were dominant. You know, following the 50-6 win in Townsville, you come to the heartland of Queensland Rugby League at Suncorp and giving them a 26-0 thumping. Looking at some of the stats, boys, it's the first time Queensland have been held scoreless in an Origin game in Brisbane. It's the first time New South Wales have won consecutive games in Queensland since the mid-90s. So, and I think it's, at the moment, that's the biggest ever series margin. So going into, you know, the next game where most people assume it's probably going to be much the same. So setting a lot of records and very impressive. Just so much strike across the park. And yeah, I mean, I just think of the modern game, boys, in terms of, you think about the teams that are doing well at the moment. Obviously, you've got those Penrith halves in there, and you look at Tommy Turbo and guys like Latrell, really well suited to the new rule set, and I guess the game in the last 12 to sort of 24 months as well. Whereas a lot of the Queensland clubs are struggling, and that's really showing at the Origin level as well. We're just amazingly dominant all over the park.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, everyone was like, Latrell, with the talent that he has, he's just lacks a little bit of fitness, and he always, you know, he switches off in those sort of 1%ers. But because he's played fullback now for almost a year, his fitness levels are off the chart. And in Origin, it just becomes absolutely unmanageable for opposition. And, you know, Turbo seems to have a bit of fitness behind him as well. And if you can pick fullbacks who can just organise your defence, who are fit, strong, big line and tackle breakers in your centre wing like they are, it's like revolutionised the way that Origin's played. And I mean, Queensland just don't have people that they can pick like that in this. They can't pick a centre winger, you know. So yeah, I mean, the viewing is just, it's unbelievable, like things you haven't seen in Origin. And I mean, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I mean, it's easy when you're winning, but I mean, not even being just New South Wales centric fan, what do you got to celebrate as a Queenslander? I think Paul Green was a terrible appointment as a coach. I think the answers that you got out of Munster, Cherry Evans, and Paul Green were just fucking abysmal. And you start Fafita on the bench, who's actually one of your X factors. The Molo, and I mean, mate, it's there's some dire times for Queensland.
I mean, yes, I agree. Granted, Grant was out, and that's a big change. Obviously, KP as well it adds a very different dimension to them at the back. I still don't think that would have changed, what we've seen in this series, but it definitely adds something different, a completely different element to Queensland, especially in attack. But, I think there was a couple of pivotal points in that game. That Latrell Mitchell intercept as well. Obviously, Queensland were on the attack, and it was only 6-0 at that point.
Yep.
He takes that ball, runs away, and just sort of breaks the spirit, and we go on with it really from there. And I still think, over the course of the game, they're probably going to, still prevail and still be dominant. The floodgates will eventually open. But you're right. Like, who do they pick at centre? Talking about someone this the other day, I can't think off the top of my head. Who can they pick at centre that's coming through that would actually be a chance to mark up on someone like Turbo or someone like Latrell? You got Chambers, you might have Opachich, you might have to pick Brimson there, but none of these guys, like Capewell's not a centre. He can't match it with these guys. So, yeah, it was great to see. And, I agree with you on the Paul Green thing as well. I think one of these Queensland legends, one of these JTs or Slaters or Cameron Smith, someone's going to have to get in there and sort them out because they can't have this going on for too much longer, old Queensland. So I'll be interested to see what happens from here, but hoping the boys in blue can build a dynasty and go 10 in a row.
Yeah, next year maybe it'll be a bit more competitive when you've got Ponga out the back and you've got maybe Walsh coming on as a 14. Maybe you put Brimson in the centre wing. But as far as this year is concerned, they had no attack. So I think they are X-factor players. And with Grant out of dummy half, maybe that gets them back in to being in the same ballpark, maybe. But they got to do some different.
I don't know about you, Ados, but as a New South Wales fan, like Grant's obviously an amazing footballer. Ponga, on his day, I still think in that arena he's got to be there. He just sort of steps up and is really dangerous. But I'm probably more worried about like guys like Reece Walsh and Sammy Walker as a New South Wales supporter than I am of like DCE and guys like Brimson at the moment as well. So I think at some point they've got to blood them. I know they're still just kids, and obviously there was a fair bit of hype and criticism of them sort of naming Walsh this quickly and this early given the context of the series. But, I think those two kids, they've got to build that Queensland dynasty or that future around them at some point. And,
absolutely.
When do you get them in? I think get them in as soon as possible personally. But
yeah, I mean, look, DCE, he just, when you need a leader and you need him in the biggest time, I think he went missing. I think he's done that a few times in his history. And I don't know whether Walker's maybe next year. Depends how much he matures in the next year. But he could be on for the year after. And I don't think that. I think he's the future. And I think Walsh and KP and the quicker you can get him in, the better chance you give yourself. What's your Tommy Turbo if you're a Queenslander? It's KP, and it's going to be Harbour Bridge passes from Walker. Those are X factor. So. Yeah, they can't wait too long, I don't think, before they get them in, for sure.
Yeah, the issue is they're still built like 13-year-old kids, I reckon, both of them. So you put, if one of them can play fullback, which is the issue, I don't think you can with KP there. You can sort of hide one of them, but as long as they're going to be in the front line of defence, they're going to get the traffic all fucking night. So yeah, it's interesting, but definitely not complaining, mate. Like you said, I sort of thought at one point there, if this happens every year, what's it really going to be like? But remind me quickly of that 8-year sort of streak and how much we copped it over that 8 years. So it's fucking beautiful. Let's get our own 8 or 9 in a row going.
Yeah, I'll take a few more years before I feel sorry for Queenslanders. That's for sure.
Fucking oath.
Oh, especially after all the shit we fucking copped during that period. Like,
yeah.
I hope it's a dynasty. Fuck Queensland.
Yeah, same. Agreed.
For sure. And boys, Supercoach, it's sort of been a couple of weeks for me. Thank fuck I haven't had to worry about my 10,000 fucking 20,000 fucking ranking. I haven't had to talk about that for a little while, so that's good. But how are we going, Ados? Probably more in particular you, mate. I know you've had a good few weeks looking at watching some of the podcasts and listening to your own. Mate, you're on a bit of a tear at the moment. What's doing?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple of really good weeks. I mean, last round that we played in Supercoach, I had the Turbo Captainer and I had no real low scores, 17-26, which got me up sort of into the top, right on the precipice of the top 1,000. I've had a couple of good rounds in a row. I mean, when you've played Supercoach for a few years, I think you plan for the buys and not even just the buys, the after buy, the round after buys. I've planned all of those really well. That we've had so far, the round 13 and the buy and my origin, outs. So I've been able to fill the 17 really well. I've had a good time of it. This week, we have the big conundrum, and that is Nathan Cleary, of course. But round 17, I think, is going to be trickier because I think people are going to go in with lower numbers because there's not as many options that you'd be happy to finish a year with, maybe in round 17. So trying to work out the right numbers to go into 17 has got me thinking. I think originally I was like, I'm going to go in with 12, but that number has been revised back to 11. And even this week now with the Cleary news, I think I might even go in with just 10 because I've been going so well. So a lot of things change. And I think because I've been going so well, I can go in a little lighter at round 17 than I originally was going to do. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm on the top, on the precipice of the top 1,000. This week on my podcast, I'm going to have Mana on, and he's having a great year in the top 1,000. Yeah, I'm bringing Mana on. So it'd be good to chat with him about some of the things that have worked well for him and the things that haven't. But I think that this week's going to be a big week, and round 17, a big week.
Absolutely. I'll be looking forward to hearing Mana jump on. He's a gentleman and astute super coacher, so I'll definitely tune into that one, mate. And yeah, I have been listening to a bit of the content. As you said, it's all about building up to round 17 and how you manage that, obviously with Super Trade Week this week. And I guess the other sleeper that, a lot of people straight away think about, that round 17 buy round, how am I going to get through? It's probably actually round 18 that'll fuck you the most because, the start of that round's only 2 days after Origin 3.
Yeah.
And then you've got obviously any guys that in your team that play Origin are probably unlikely to back up in that round, as we just sort of probably saw in round, 14?
Yeah, 14.
So it's not just 17 and covering that with your buy players. It's also then 18 where, you can't, if you're depending on those Origin guys backing up, you've got Turbo playing, only 2 days later, probably for feeder as well. So 18 will be one that could sting a few people as well. And it's going to be massive in terms of those guys doing well overall like yourself. You come out of that round 17, 18 well, and you set yourself up really well for a nice run home and possibly a big finish to the year, rankings-wise as well.
Yep. Yeah, 18 can almost be... I mean, when I did 14, I was in head-to-heads against people that couldn't even field 17. So that's what happens sometimes. You, get so obsessed with numbers in the buy and balancing a lot of Origin players, and you get stung in the round after. So yeah, 18 will be almost as interesting as round 17. I suspect.
And a question I got for you, mate. At this time of the year, it's quite interesting. We've still got over a third of the year left. What are we sitting at around 16? Only around 16. So yeah, we're pretty much still about 2/3 of the way through the season. Obviously. How are you looking with trades-wise? Because they're coming a hot commodity and burning like nothing else, obviously, with Super Trade Week this week as well. How many you got left in the bank before this week?
Yeah, so before I make any trades this week, I got 12. I was always planning on using 4 this week in the buy round, so that leaves me 8 for the remainder of the year. And, I've got 8, and really the only 2 players that I want to bring in for run home for the rest of the year, if I use... say my 4 this week and get down to 8 would be Pappenhausen and Fafita for me. And so I'd have 6 there to cover me for any issues that come up. With the news of Cleary, I could use 5 trades this week and bring in 5 guns, including Fafita. And in that event, I would have 7 left, and the only person I need to bring back in is Pappenhausen. So that could be very well a viable option once I hear news from Cleary. But I have 12 currently, and I either use 4 this week or I use 5, and I run the year out with 6 or 7, post the buy. So I've saved some, and I always plan on going 1 less this week. The real kick in the nads for me was TPJ out, because I was going to be able to play him this week. But so that was almost, I could have got away with 3 trades this week, but Yeah, I'll use 4 definitely this week and have 8 left, or I'll have 7 left. And the only person, if I do use all 5 this week, the only person I have to bring back in is Pappenhausen.
Yeah, well, you're actually looking pretty good then, to be honest. I know a lot of people that have burnt max trades, and if you were to push through 5 this week as well, I think that leaves people with maybe 4 trades, if I'm not mistaken, if you've used all of them and intend to use all 5. So I think there's a lot of people in that boat, and if you've set yourself up to have a few more than that at this point of the year, post Super Trade Week, you're looking really good. So that sounds good for you, mate.
What about you?
So I've currently got 11 in the bank.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not awesome. And for someone ranked, I think, like I said, I'm like 15,000 odd, if not more. It's not awesome, but I do understand a lot of ground can be made pretty quickly, and especially at this time of year. So, obviously I'm no chance of, doing anything special this year. Yeah, I might have to just see if I can try and find that top 5K or something in the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks and go from there. But I think I'd be fucking probably 1,000 points behind the top 1,000 at this point. I think I'd have to imagine. So it's not an awesome year, but it happens. Look, can't win them all. I've made some poor decisions, but it's also been a tricky year. Obviously, there's lots happening and a few injuries and just different bits and pieces, mate. But no excuses. Just haven't made some of the right decisions, and that's Supercoach sometimes, mate.
Are you going to use all 5 this week?
I will. I think the big the Nathan Cleary one's real interesting, mate. Just touching on that. I mean, I will look to use my entire 5 just to try and solid me up for 17, and obviously looking at guys that are going to be playing around 17 and also, won't play Origin, so they're good for the run home. So looking at like Tohu this week, Jesse Ramian, CHN, SJ, just guys like that, I guess. I've got the luxury of a bit of money there, and obviously I've got TPJ as well. And Nathan Cleary, mate, I'm not sure. I've heard mixed mail on him. I've heard up to 3 weeks possibly. I've heard 3 to 6. I've heard maybe it's the season, depending on what's doing. I don't know what to read into it, and it's a bit of a hard decision to make because that's also a really season-defining move, as you touched on. Like $1.1 million. If you trade him, you can pretty much upgrade everyone with your 5 trades this week. But if you do trade him and he comes back in 2 or 3 weeks, there's no way, with trades being such a hot commodity and his price, how are you going to get him back in unless you keep 500,000 or 600,000 in the bank somehow? And it's a big decision I think some people are faced with. It's as I said, season defining. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think people who tell me, I'll trade Cleary out and I'll bring him back if he comes back, you won't. I'm sorry, because he's going to cost $1 million when he comes back. And if you spread your funds now to bring in 5 guns, even if you'd have to sell a gun down to enough, maybe, to be able to upgrade back to get Cleary. And I don't know who's got enough trades to do that. So I think if you trade Cleary this week, you've got to probably have the thought in your mind that you're going to trade him for the rest of the year, and you're going to just run the gauntlet of having no Cleary back. Now, they say that it could be 1 to 3, but I think they're saying that's best case scenario. And I think that it's going to be probably more like 5 or 6. And I think that's probably the best thing for Penrith, for them to still have a chance at the premiership, because if he doesn't get the surgery, apparently you can rehab it in 6 and get a bit of strength back in it. Now, if that's 5 games and that is round 21, maybe 22, he's got to be a sell. How can you hold $1 million on your bench? The things that you can do with that money if it's more than 4 weeks, especially for you, Brent, because I'm in the top 1,000, so holding Cleary becomes a harder choice for me because my season can go. I'll get a chance at top 100, but if I sell Cleary and others don't, I could just drop way down the ladder, But for you at round 15,000 or 5,000, you could sell him and just put your balls on the table, just have a go, because you could just bank on the fact that he might come back later and just use the money to bring in 5 guns this week in your 5 trades, and you might shoot up the ladder now and just try to hold your spot. I think it's a viable option for people who are lower on the ladder to people that are higher up on the ladder. For me in the top 1,000, I'm going to wait to see if it's more than 4 weeks for Cleary. And what if I don't hear before Thursday kickoff? If I hear nothing, that's going to become a really, really hard decision.
Yeah, you're right, and he's obviously, you know, I don't think Penrith can win the comp without him. He's that good of a player. He's obviously Supercoach wise matchup proof. We know that. There's you know, he is the world record holder. There's no one with his ceiling. Realistically, he's the guy that does it. If he does miss 4 to 6, as you said, if he misses 4 weeks, he comes back against possibly the Chooks or the Dragons, but they play South and Parrot in there, which doesn't matter. But you know, given how important he is to their side, you can't imagine they would rush him back. And you know, they're going to make the finals regardless of this. Obviously, they prefer that top 2 finish for a home final in the top 4, but they can't afford to risk him. So it is a big call, and you know, it's interesting. Like I said, I was sort of off Burton. I was trading Burton to SJ this week, but now all of a sudden there's a whole different dimension to it. With
Burton's a hold. Burton's a hold now because he's going to play. He's going to play halves now for the next, you know, anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. But yeah, Cleary selling. It's going to be season defining. Whether you do it or not, hopefully we've got some news about how long it's going to be out. But if you're 10,000 and below, I reckon you sell him. If he's 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks, sell him and use your money to buy. You could sell Cleary and buy Hughes, and you could pocket 500k.
Yeah. You're right. It is, and for someone like my position, it probably doesn't really matter, to be honest, because I'm fucked anyway. So, you know, I'll probably pull the trigger on him this week and have a bit of fun with the money and the trades, and see what I can do.
Yeah, I mean, everyone gets to that point in the year where you can be a little kooky, you know. So go kooky now. Yeah, I reckon. Yeah,
if ever there's a time to be kooky, I think you're right. It's probably this week for me, mate. A couple other interesting things moving on from that in terms of that Briar Week preparation. Obviously, COVID's picked up around the country, mate, as you'd be well aware. But a couple of guys, or one in particular, Josh Curran, who a lot of people, including myself, had sort of held for round 17, will now miss round 17 due to some isolation that they need to do. So that's a bit of a ballser, bit of a perler at this point of the year, along with Aitken, and obviously that situation is evolving pretty quickly around the country, and happening in New South Wales and Queensland, which is interesting. We'll have to see what happens there in terms of the footy and even where Origin will play. It looks like that's probably going to be up in Queensland as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a 3-day here in Queensland. I think it's a little bit more dire in New South Wales. You know, Curran, I think he gets out if he passes his isolation. He's come back as negative, but he gets out the day before the game in round 17. So do you hold him or do you sell him? Because I don't know if he's going to actually play if he gets out the day before the game, because there's no run-up, is there? But
he hasn't trained for 2 weeks as well. I imagine they haven't had team runs, him and Aitken, so I don't think that's doable.
Yeah, so it could be a line through Curran. But if you had Curran in your team right now, I'd hold him and just wait and see.
Well, and the value of the trade at this point, like realistically, for the value, I mean, Curran's solid enough that for the run home, you could probably have him as a backup second row. If someone's injured in, you know, one of your guns, you can slot him in and probably does a job for you. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those funny things. It's just another one of those things this year you just think, fuck me dead. Can't catch a trick, eh? But I don't know if there's anything else news-wise, mate. I've been a bit off the buzzer, working busy. The kids keeping me busy. Anything else we gotta think of before we jump into team list for round 16, mate?
No, not really. I mean, I think the only. Oh, sorry, I was just out taking a piss. You know, I think the big thing is that mostly everyone's named, I guess, this week. But I think we'll get into that, and I just think this week I know we've got 5 trades, and it's kind of weird that we've had a super trade round and it's the post-Origin game, which it makes it really tricky. And so, you know, this week I think you got to try to write yourself down when I write myself, Adrian, on Thursday make this trade at 6 p.m. Adrian, make this trade on Friday at 5 p.m. You know, and I do it like that. So this week, I think if you just blow all your trades in the lead into the round, or you do it all on a Thursday, you know, Teddy could be pulled out. And look, it's even players like Toto were strapped heavily in that Origin. You know, he could be a late pullout for them, and news wise, it's just all the coaches play funny buggers, don't they?
Yeah, I was hoping, exactly that. Like you said, good sound advice there to not pull the trigger on all 5 before that first game starts, because if something happens, you're fucked. Do what you have to do at the latest possible. If if you've got to switch players around, make sure if you've got a dual guy that you've got to swap down into your centre wingers, that he's not a guy playing on Thursday, and that stops you from, some trades you might have to go early on for that reason. But you're right. Was hoping like they wouldn't name guys like Tedesco and they wouldn't name guys like Turbo just to keep it easy for us, but it makes it a little bit hard. I guess it's a little bit easier for the early games in the round, i.e. if you've got James Tedesco, I guess, and guys like Angus Crichton as well, you'll get to see pretty quickly, and even Cameron Munster early on, so you can sort of work around that potentially, but once that round sort of starts, you can be caught out depending on how things are shaping up. So yes, it will be interesting. Turbo in particular, mate. Against the Bulldogs on the Saturday, I believe. The first game on the Saturday, and a massive captain option.
Yep.
I'm someone that has Teddy and Turbo at the moment. So if Teddy gets ruled out, I will just leave Turbo on. And if he does play, he does play. And I'll just chuck the captaincy on him. But if Teddy gets ruled, plays, I'm still tempted to leave Turbo on the field because there's a chance he'll play, just because I want to chuck the sound on him. But if he doesn't, if he's a late exclusion, it'll be a bit of a ballser. So that one's definitely a bit of a concern. But
yes,
everyone's probably in the same boat, maybe.
Do you have Hines?
No, I missed the Hines boat. And never got on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always. I mean, I think with Teddy with the hip pointer, he's probably, and being the Thursday game, he's probably the more unlikely, I would guess, because he has been injured. He had a great Origin, by the way. And, he's probably more injured than Turbo, even though we saw Turbo get that ankle. I think the Sea Eagles need Turbo more. I mean, because, I think the Chooks probably know up against Melbourne, why risk Teddy in a matchup that they think they're probably going to lose anyway, up against such a great team. Whereas Manly, they've got a soft matchup, and maybe if Turbo hasn't hurt his ankle, he's got a 6-day turnaround. What's the point of, keeping him off? Maybe you go on and just play 50 minutes, or maybe they just say we don't need Turbo for the Dogs. It's just a real wait and see. But I like your approach is that I would be banking on maybe Teddy not playing and have him on your reserves, where you can be able to change that, and you just have Turbo in your front line and have him there, because if he plays, he's a captain, and I've got him picked and in there with the captain on him, waiting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this point of the year, just given the form he's in, it's unbelievable. You can't afford to, not chuck the ceiling, I think, against the Dogs this week with everything else that's happening. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting one, another interesting round of footy, and, there'll be ground to be made, mate. I guess one last thing before we do jump into team lists. We talked about it a bit before the show, mate, but obviously with Cleary missing, he's all but missing Origin 3. We talked about who might be able to fill in that Sky Blue 7 for Game 3, and what are you thinking on that?
Yeah, I think my personal opinion is that probably with the type of player that Cleary is, I think it leans itself the most towards Moses coming in. It might sound a little bit weird me saying Moses, but I think that Moses has a good long kicking game, whereas Luai's got a really good short kicking game. I mean, I think that Moses is more of your quintessential halfback. And that's, you could bring Whiten up and play Whiten and Luai, but Whiten's a running 5'8", and Luai's not the best organizer as a 7. I think Luai is better as a 6, so they've got to be looking at bringing in a 7. And I think it'll be Moses or maybe Reynolds, A-Ray, that come in. The real light, loose, scary option for me is that they go a Walker-Luai combo, or that they play Whiten and Luai as the starters and then bring Cody as the 14. So there's definitely a chance that Cody Walker could come in some capacity. But I think that if they just keep Whiten as the 14 and they bring Moses in, that's almost like for like. It's like the LD version of Cleary is Moses. And just
good value at Aldi as well, though.
It could
Yeah,
be
Aldi.
interesting over the next couple of weeks, though. There might be a few number 7s out there that are looking to change Brad Fittler's mind. The spot is up for grabs, and I'm sure Freddie's sitting back thinking he doesn't have to make his mind up straight away.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right. If someone comes out and has a blinder out of Walker, Moses, Whiten, maybe that's what gets them over the line. But I just think for a long kicking game and a goal kicker, Moses fits. And that's my early guess.
Well, I agree with you on the Moses, believe it or not. I think he's in form. He's probably, on a bit of a tear. Confidence is up. He's definitely a confidence guy. Given the context of where we're at with the series and the team we've got, I could nearly play halfback, to be honest. But we've got Mitchell Pearce back as well. I mean, there's an option. I do like A-Ray as a bit of a shout, actually. I hadn't thought about A-Ray. And we will see. We'll get to
kicker and one of the best kickers in the comp.
He's a genuine, organising 7, pretty safe there. So, yeah, you're right. Walker would be a massive spanner for 17, though. Fuck, that would fuck us a lot of people for 17. But we do get a look at Luai at 7 this week, which is very interesting. Obviously, we don't think about him as a 7, but, is that a bit of an audition potentially? But I guess we'll have to see. There's plenty of options there, which is good, and it's nice that we do have the series wrapped up and we don't have to worry about it. But fuck, it would be good to sweep those bastards. So.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. But from a round 17 point of view, the worst thing that could happen to you is if it's Cody Walker that comes in, because no one's going to own A-Ray or Moses from a Supercoach point of view. Yeah, actually, when I think about this week, that'll be the difference between me bringing in Jerome Hughes and going Cody Nikorima in my trades, because I'll give myself a buffer to cover in case Walker goes out for my round 17 numbers by getting Nikorima instead.
I'm going Nikorima as well.
Yeah, it could affect your trades, because I would have preferred a Hughes if I knew that Cody Walker wasn't going to Origin, but I don't know for sure, so I've got to give myself a safety net.
Yeah, well, the joys of Supercoach, boys. It'll be interesting to see, like I said, this week and the next few weeks will be, like I said, season defining for a number of reasons. So all the best ADOS, especially for you and anyone else sort of placed around that top 1K or better, or anyone sort of making a run in. And may the Supercoach gods be with you and be kind, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Bogues, we're jumping into team lists. We'll go around 16 team lists. Why not?
Yeah, there's some cracker games this week. Starting off on Thursday with the Roosters versus the Storm in Newcastle.
Yeah, good game to start the round.
In Newey, so they moved a few games around, I take it.
They have had to due to the vid. Ironically enough, the Storm this afternoon have fled Queensland back to Melbourne.
How funny.
So they've left the Sunshine Coast. They're back in Melbourne at the moment, and I'm guessing they're going to have to fly out again tomorrow to Newcastle.
Yeah, wow. I guess we might have to start talking to the West Australians and seeing what they can do for us soon. But
now's 3 days. We'll be back to normal.
Sorry to get off. I know we started actually to get into the games, but Origin 3, talk of it will be played in Newcastle.
I think so.
Oh, that'll be a pearler. You get the crowd, you fill it up.
So
COVID allows it.
So John Barilaro, Bruz himself.
The koala killer.
Yeah.
Might sue me.
He might sue us. He definitely might sue us about what I'm about to fucking say. He's come out and said, yeah, we'll move the game to Newcastle. It'll be fine. It'll still be New South Wales. And I'm thinking, you fat fucking dick. Like, you're from Queanbeyan. How come Canberra Origin?
I'd love a Canberra. I'd go down for that if I could.
That'd be huge.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. The boutique stadium, it would be great over in Canberra too. But I like it at McDonald Jones, and they will fill that thing. It'll have a great atmosphere.
Hashtag Canberra Origin. Come on, people.
But there's been 2 wins.
we've got no vid here at the moment till probably tomorrow when they announce that we do. But at the moment, we've only got a mask mandate. That's all we've got. People are pretty much still free to move around.
If it's in
Canberra Origin.
If it's in Canberra, I'm flying down and we'll get on the beers and go to the game. I might shout. Because, I mean, I'd love that, mate. Fuck, I'd love that. I'll get in. We'll get a Viking clap going for the Blues and make a new thing.
That, or we have a third game in Queensland just so we can say, remember that Origin where we beat you 3-0 all in Queensland?
But yeah, I mean, I think it's changed that game obviously because of COVID, and the Origin it's up for grabs. It'll be interesting.
It will be really interesting, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Obviously, yeah, COVID's just such a evolving situation. You never know what's going to happen. That mandate is the first time that's happened here in ACT as well, so I can only assume it's actually here and they're just trying to stop the spread. They just haven't told us yet. But anyway, yeah, back into this one. Obviously, the first game on the Thursday, which will be the first Thursday game probably for a little while. So I'm haven't watched a good week of footy. And it will be the Chooks taking on the Storm. And we've got a couple of big names, obviously, in that one, boys, backing up from Origin. Obviously, probably the biggest aspect to these team lists this week will be whether those Origin guys back up. So, for myself, looking at Teddy, you got Angus as well. I'd imagine a lot of people got Angus. Fair few people might have had months and months. Has been a bit MIA for the last, few months, last month or so, I think, from memory. He hasn't played, done a lot of club footy, has he? He's missed a few weeks and he's been a bit far between.
Bit shit, yeah.
Yeah, so a few of those ones, but otherwise you got guys like Nico Hines in this game looking like a potential VC. I think the Chooks aren't the Chooks we're used to seeing. Obviously Sam Walker's back and that's a big in for them, but they're just not doing it the same this year. I think Melbourne are looking pretty good. Obviously Harry Grant's out, still missing for a few weeks of that hamstring injury, but Brandon Smith's doing a stellar job there. You wouldn't even, it's quite seamless really, and they're pretty much full strength. So should be an interesting game. If Teddy was to get ruled out, you'd have to assume maybe Manu goes to fullback and Suwali comes in. And I don't know. What are you thinking about this one, Ados?
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game, but I think you'll see the difference in quality between the Storm and the Roosters. I think the Roosters, they'll get a number put on them, I think, this week. Melbourne are just such a juggernaut. And you think that with Cleary being in doubt for the whole season or 4 weeks out, the Storm are going to just finish top spot. You have no doubt about it. They're just, they are just such an amazing team. And I mean, this week for me, I mean, I'm tempted to, I was always going to sell Hines because I know that Pap is due back in round 18, but maybe in this matchup, because I really think that Teddy with the hip pointer and a Thursday, so that's 4 days post Origin, maybe he gets rested, and I think that makes them a much easier prospect for the Storm. So maybe I'll hold and bring Hines down to fullback and sell Gutho, who's got a hard matchup being Penrith. But it's just a matter of who gets rested and who plays, because in the Roosters, I have little confidence that Tedesco's going to back up. I really do. But I feel confident that Crichton will back up because he only played 40 minutes. And over the other side, I think that Munster hasn't done sweet fuck all in Origin, so he's going to back up. He should back up. And Addo Carr didn't break a sweat. He'll back up. And, who knows with the forwards, but I think Melbourne's going to get the job done fairly comfortably here in just the fact that I'm so confident that Tedesco will be rested because of that. You saw that big padding that he had on himself in the game. And he did have a wow of a game, but if the Roosters actually want to finish top 4, you're going to drop the game against Melbourne whether Teddy plays or not, I think.
Yeah, you're right, and realistically, they're not playing very good footy. But at the same time, that might be a reason that they do need to play Teddy. They got to find their best, and they can't afford to drop a lot of games of footy, and this is
I
going
think
to be a big
strategically they
test.
just go, they put a line through this game. They go, all right, we'll put a line through the Melbourne game. That's a good game to let Teddy hip recover, and then we'll just go win the next 3 because we rested Teddy. Give Teddy a chance to rehab.
Just on the Chooks, mate. I mean, it's a fair point you make. I mean, they play Penrith next week. They play the Dogs in round 17, and then they play North Queensland in round 18. Is there any players in this Chook side outside of Origin that you're looking at bringing in the next couple of weeks? More so probably in round 17 when they do take on the Dogs, and obviously in the bye round. Is there any names in that list that stand out?
Yep. I will be bringing in Tupu.
Mm-hmm.
I love Tupu and his base. I think he had a 20-odd score last week, and he's got a huge BE, and he's playing the Melbourne Storm this week. So ideally, you'd pick him up after this week.
Yep.
But I love him. I like him better than players like Ikavalu and Manu. And I'm happy to finish the year with him. He's got a really good base and can go up as high as 100. He's like an AJ without the low floor.
Yeah.
So I'll be bringing in Tupu. I was tempted for a little while by Satili Tupanua, but he's at such a high price now. Like people who got him, once they held him or whatever, and now he's nailed down that spot. He's been a great hold or buy for people when the price was right, but he's too expensive for me now. And the people that who owned and held Sam Walker, how good would it be that he's back this week? Because this is not a great matchup, and you may not play him this week, but he's a superb matchup for the Dogs game.
Yeah, you're right. And that were the 3 names on the list, mate, that I would have had as well. It's Tupu, Walker, and Tupanua. I already have Tupanua, which is nice. I was one of those guys that have just had him all year. Obviously, the news of Cordner's retirement was pretty big in regards to his position as well. He was in that Cordner spot, so that's pretty significant. He's a bit inconsistent, but can sniff out a try and has a bit of a ceiling. So definitely a good target. And yeah, you nailed it. I think Tupu and Walker, they're both faced with pretty high break evens this week, and they play Penrith next week. So they're probably a couple of guys you could have real watch on for actually bringing in 17. My only concern with Tupu in particular is one injury to a winger, one of the New South Wales wingers, and I think he's straight in. So that might be all the more reason to just sort of hold on Tupu until 17 as well, which,
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that they've got that South's Graham in there as 19th man means that if they had that injury, I think that I don't know why Tupu's gone backwards on the list. He was outstanding in Origin last year. But I think that Graham is the next cab off the ranks. So I think you could safely bring in Tupu this week. If you were ballsy and you want to bring him in against the Storm. But, I don't even think Tupu is a huge risk against the Storm, because I don't think that George Jennings and I don't think the Storm backline is actually a defensive powerhouse. They're not defensively a powerhouse. And that Sam Walker's going to harbour bridge pass it and get it out to Tupu. And I think he could still be on for a try. So I'm not against you buying him this week. I think the smart play would be to buy him next week. And there is that minimal risk for Origin. But for me, I don't think the risk is as huge for Origin as you'd think. But I think the Tupanua is a great opportunity for. He's going to get a pie in round 17. I could really see it. What do you think about Takiaho? A lot of people thinking about buying him. I'm not sold on Takiaho. I just prefer Adam Fanua-Blake, or I'm going to go the one above. I'm going to go Luke Thompson. But I don't have any interest in Takiaho. What about you?
No, I think I was obviously enormous. I think I was really high on him to start the year, and there was a few different things in terms of he had the goal kicking, and in particular he had the goal kicking when he was on the park. But especially since losing that, I mean, that was potentially an extra 10 to 20 points depending on what was going on, which takes him from at the moment he's scoring 50 points. At best, but add 10 or 15 and that makes a bit of a difference to him. So you're right. I still don't think he's viable, especially when he's lost that goal kicking. And the two blokes you've said, it's either Adam Fanua-Blake or Luke Thompson for me. I think I'm sort of leaning towards AFB just because of the price point, but you're going to get way more consistency out of Thompson, obviously. It's just you're going to not get that ceiling out of him that you'll get with AFB. It's just the AFB is more likely to pop off a little 50 compared to Thompson, I reckon, but the price is a bit of a factor there. And and the duality with Thompson's probably pretty important as well, to be fair. That duality at this point of the year, if you've got enough or even just a Papali offset with him, I think that's pretty valuable at this time of the year, given trades at such a hot commodity.
Yeah, those second row forward, front rowers, I think, become important towards the end of the year. And if you can have one of those down in your second row forward when you're running your Thompsons or TPJs or IPAPs up the front, because, with the way that this year's going with suspensions or head highs, there's every chance that you might need to bring someone up from your second row, week to week towards the end of the year. And I think that a Luke Thompson is super handy for that. So is a TPJ. So is an IPAP, and they're worth their weight in gold,
And I guess the only issue I see with a couple of these boys, especially given the new rule set, is you think about someone like AFB and probably Thompson as well. They're probably short odds for a bit of a loose arm every now and then. So
yeah, I mean, I think they're probably less than TPJ, and someone like Thompson, for instance, the doggies had that COVID breach, so there's a few of them out.
True.
Yep, and they've got they've got something else, a couple of injuries. I mean, Luke Thompson could realistically be playing 65 minutes, 70 minutes.
Yeah, and he's been so solid. Like, his base has been phenomenal, to be fair. He's probably had his breakout year. He only came here last year, I think. But yeah, he's been Mr. Consistency.
Yeah, third for front row forward. So, but I mean, he is 100K more than AFB and nearly 200K more than Takiaho. So I would rate, if you had the funds, I would go Thompson ahead of AFB and Takiaho, but I would definitely go AFB before Takiaho. So Takiaho is third on the list for me, and that's what's relevant in this game. And I just wouldn't be interested in buying Takiaho, even as a reserve front rower, personally.
Yeah, no, I like it. I just like the ceiling potential in AFB and that offload that he has as well. So
he can ton up, yeah. So I agree.
For sure. Cool, sweet as. Moving on to the second game. We probably won't spend as much time on every game. Bogan will be fucking.
Yeah, they're not as interesting as this.
Warriors Dragons, mate, on the 6 o'clock slot on the Friday evening at Central Coast Stadium. What are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, well, I'm going to bring in Tohu this week. I think he's back to the 13 this week. He may go back into second row, but he plays good minutes as a 13 as well, and I have no doubts that he's going to consistently score the points that he needs to score to be a viable option. I'm looking at Cody Nikorima. I mean, the only worry for me is that now that the Chad has gone over to finish out the year with the Warriors, is that going to affect Cody, do you think?
Yeah, it's a fair observation. It's an interesting little pickup by the Warriors there. Obviously with CHT, with that season-ending injury, they needed a half to go in there. They obviously weren't happy with O'Sullivan for whatever reason. But, yeah, I mean, potentially he's the sort of guy that can stifle a bit of play as well. He can fuck a few things up. I just know in the past, having SJ, it sometimes can be a bit of an issue when Townsend's there sometimes. And, yeah, I mean, he's got that 7 jersey as well. So I guess it remains to be seen. Cody Nikorima's probably had the best year of his career, really, hasn't he? And in Supercoach-wise, it's definitely translated as well. You know, it's obviously a massive roller coaster with Nikorima, but he's been pretty consistent. Like, to be fair, he's only had, 4 games under 40, which is pretty impressive across sort of nearly 16 games. So
yeah, 3 tons. But is Townsend the kibosh on Nikorima? Is he gonna fucking put the line through Nikorima? Because it's Nikorima. I can get Nikorima around the same price as Hughes, and Hughes has got 4 tons. He's in an elite team, And are you just being 17 obsessed in getting Nikorima? It's like if it was no Chad, I'd have no doubt going Nikorima. if there was no Chad? Or is it that they just get Chad there and they're like, you know your place, mate. It's a Nicarima show, and you know. But yeah, he is in that 7. So I mean, I'm worried. I mean, it could be Hughes for me and just go one down in round 17. You know, because I feel less faith in Nicarima now. With the Chad is like, you know, that on The Simpsons where any one of those class members that were near Bart, how it all has that big
The vortex.
cavern. Yeah, the vortex. I feel like that's what there is around Chad. You know, so I don't know. I mean, Chad, I'd have to bring in Nicarima this week if I was going to do the old sell Cleary and bring in 5 guns. It's just whether I see Nicarima as the gun that he's been so far this year, or whether he goes down from gun status now that the Chad, the vortex is there. You know, so that's the thought process for me. I'll either do it. It'll either be the Nicarima or I'll go with Hughes, and I'll probably let Kando be the decider for me because he's my voice of reason. Whether he agrees with my logic on Nicarima versus Hughes. But yeah, I think that those are the buyers in that team. I think some people were mentioning to me, I mean, Adam Fanua-Blake is definitely a viable option. On the bench, you know, they've got a second rower and a hooker, and they've got 2 other players in the front row rotation. So I think there's good minutes there because Kane Evans can't play minutes. So I think that AFB is an outstanding buy.
Look, to be fair, I probably don't expect much more than 50 sort of 5 minutes. If you're getting more than 55 out of AFB, you're probably doing well. It's not he's generally not played big minutes from memory across his career because, you know, look at the size of him. But if he's getting 55 minutes, which he did to start the year basically, and he got nearly 60 minutes in the last game that he played, he's very relevant, and it's just about those minutes. But
58,
you might
point a minute,
yeah,
or more.
That'd be the highlights. I agree. I'm bringing in Tohu. Might have to get an AFB if the price isn't right elsewhere across my team. I guess if I'm selling clear, it probably won't matter. And yeah, Nicarima's an interesting one. I guess you just got to have a look at those draws, ADOS for the run home, what you like better. Obviously, 17's a big one, but, you know, Jerome Hughes is probably having his best season ever, Supercoach-wise at least anyway. And he's 100k more, but a lower break even. So, you know, if he has one more big week, he's almost ungettable for some people, depending on what they... Well, I suppose the thing is with Cleary, he's a straight spot regardless. But, yeah, that's a pretty big decision.
It is, yeah. It is something to think about. I mean, it's do you want 17 or do you want the rest of the year? So, and it's wondering whether Chad, you know, is the vortex. But I mean, on the Dragon side, no one really interests me. I'm happy with the people that had the faith in Jack Bird. I think he scores well at centre wing, and he's been in recently times. He's been in the second row, and he's been a good buy. He's been averaging really well this year. I think. Well done to you. Nothing else for me.
I got Benny Hunt. I brought Benny Hunt in as a product for that first buy, so I'll look to get off him. But at the moment, I got him at hooker, and he got 130 last game he played, so that was pretty good. But I'll look to transition off him, obviously, you know, with Origin, and I hope he actually backs up this week as well. I don't think he did too much on.
I think
Sunday night. So
I think he'll back up. I think he'll score well this week too. So you could hold him another. He could turn up this week too.
Yeah, so I like him this week.
He's had a great year, Ben Hunt. He was a good buy.
Yeah, I think before he had that leg issue, there was a lot of people that jumped on him because he was going right. I like him as a little sneaky sort of, you know, week-to-week matchup, especially in that hooker position, which is a bit dry at the moment, obviously, with Harry Grant. I think Matty Labita's just asked about the hooker position, Nados. And in particular, like I said, with no Harry Grant there's no real standouts. You got Marnie injured, who's been having a stellar year, but you know, Brayley's a bit on the slide, just pumping out the base, no attacking stats recently. The hooker position's turned out to be an interesting one in the last month.
It's been a real surprise packet that it's been such a bad position all year. The cheese is my
good shout.
Yeah, in my award show, I gave it to the cheese as the hooker of the year because he's in third place. He's behind Harry Grant's only played a handful of games, and Reid Marnie, who started the year strong and has fallen off a cliff. So the best hooker of the year has been Brandon Smith. Really, if you think
you're
about
right.
recent times, he's averaged over 80 for the last 8-9 games, and he's got tons in there. So it's a barren wasteland. And like in the start of the year, we are going people like Jaden Brayley, who was making 60 tackles a week at least, which is what McCulloch is doing, 60 tackles a week. So you get 60 points, and that's okay. You just go the safety. You play the safety, but someone like Brayley has only been getting 30 tackles a game in recent 3 or 4 weeks, and I've got Brayley and Watson in my dummy half. So for me, the minute that Grant is back, I'm trading someone to Grant.
Yeah.
He's who I want to finish the year with, and I don't want to finish it with anyone else. Who else do you want in the dummy half?
Well, I guess at the moment with Brayley and Hunt, I'm not too fast. Can live with that, like you said, until Grant's back. The only thing with Brayley, obviously, is that the Knights have a pretty good run home. Obviously, Pearce back, Pong has been named again this week. So maybe a few different options, like out the back, might take the eyes off some of the short balls for the big boys close to the line and stuff, and maybe you can find some of those attacking stats again. But as you said, Brandon Smith for sure. And the other massive upside to him is like no Harry Grant. You can only assume he's going to play majority of the minutes there too. But he's not going to play 80.
No, but he's dual. He's dual, and even when Harry Grant comes back, he might play reasonable minutes. Because he plays that lock role. Like if I was picking anyone and they were like a gun to your head, pick someone now, the only player I would pick would be the Cheese, because he's try scorer too, and he can get you 100. The Cheese has got 4 100s this year, 4 100s. So he can go big for you, and he is a go-getter. He's a dead set go-getter. So I mean, if it's not going to be Grant for me, it's going to be the Cheese, depending on how long Grant's out for. But I'm stifled there now at the moment with Watson and Brayley, but there's no one to trade him to. I don't want Cook. So it's a real. There's some spots this year that are wastelands, and if you haven't got Grant, it's Grant. Grant has the highest average this year, and Brandon Smith has the second highest. How good are you if you're Melbourne? The top 2 hookers this year are both the Melbourne hookers for average.
And it's crazy as well, and that's the only issue with Grant is once he comes back, he's going to have that minute share with Smith. Whereas it doesn't matter some weeks because he's so good and Melbourne tear teams apart. There's probably going to be weeks where he does only play 40 minutes or whatever and doesn't, tear the house down. So, it's interesting. But hooker position, a real interesting one, again, to finish the year, and a bit of a defining position depending on where you go with it. But, a bit of, I reckon, a couple good,
I mean, if you can't get a high attacking hooker, maybe you just pick a hooker who plays 90 minutes. Like, like last week, Andrew McCulloch made 60 tackles, 60 points. And Jerry Marshall-King has scored an 84 and a 60. He getting 80 minutes too. So if you're really desperate and you need to find around 17, I'd pick around 17 like Jeremy Marshall-King, who plays 80 minutes. And that is loose. It's loose as a goose, but if you need to find someone who plays 80 minutes in the hooker position, if you can't go a Harry Grant or you can't afford Brandon Smith, maybe you go one of these ones that has the potential to play 90. 80 minutes gives you a better chance for heaps of tackles.
Good call. I reckon good couple alternative options there as well. That's good shout. All right, moving on to the second game on the Friday night, and a bit of a blockbuster, a few injuries obviously to the Penrith side, or a few rule-outs, but it will be Penrith taking on Parramatta at Bluebet Stadium in Penrith.
Yep.
No Dylan Edwards, obviously no Cleary in that one as well, and Jerome Lai will play the 7, Matty Burton will play 6. Tyron May comes into the centres. Charlie Staines been named at fullback 8. So I find this one fascinating. I don't think we get to see him play fullback in his NRL career just yet. And I think the fullback might be the position he is most dangerous in. It'll be interesting, obviously. He'll probably get belted on any kick returns. But in terms of chiming in on those attacking plays, I think it could be a big night for Charlie. It'd be really interesting to see how he fits in there at fullback. What are you thinking about him there?
Oh, mate, I love him at fullback, actually, personally, in a little bit that I've seen of him. I don't think it'll be a problem with him getting smashed at fullback because as long as he gets early kicks and he gets a chance to get a bit of run back, he's dangerous. You know, like if he gets 10 meters to run back, he'll be dangerous. And his ball play is outstanding. I think he is made to be a fullback, and I've criticised the living shit out of Staines. He's been a stain on everyone's existence. But if he's at fullback, I think he's a viable option to play this week. Because even against the Eels, because he looked absolutely outstanding at fullback. Outstanding. I think he's very naturally a fullback. I love Staines at fullback. I think he's a different prospect at fullback. It'll be really interesting to see whether To'o backs up with that big strapping he had on his leg. I think if you've got Burton, you play him, and he's a good viable option in the 6. It should be. I
think he goal kicks. He probably goal kicks in that one as well, Ados. I'd imagine Burton will kick.
Yeah, or Crichton. Yeah.
But, you got Crichton. Sorry, you're right. It'll be Crichton. No,
so probably Crichton. Over the other side, I've got to choose between who I sell out of Gutherson or Hines. This is still going to be a tough matchup for Gutho. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards selling Gutho. But like Bogan said, this could be a real audition for Moses to take that New South Wales number 7. I'm looking at bringing in Isaiah Papali'i this week, and I'm looking at selling Maddo.
All right. Interesting. Not happy with Maddo. I think last time we were on the show, it was around the round 13 bye, and I think we were talking about Madison, and you had mentioned he wasn't playing 80, he was getting pulled off, and I actually never got on him, and I'm sort of seeing it as a bit of a blessing in disguise now.
Yeah, I mean the minutes. I think that the rise of someone like Papali'i is huge, and like Maddo's minutes have been low. They've been 50s and even down to as low as 40s. And even if he's going well at a point per minute, it's not enough. So like someone like Barney, he's named to start in second row, played 80 minutes last game. So who are you going to sell out of Madison for his more money, or Barney, whose role is increasing and getting better, or Maddo, whose role is going down?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big trade and one you probably wouldn't have predicted you would have made at the time. You had Gutho, when you brought Maddo in, obviously. You obviously wouldn't have because you brought him in. But Gutho's on a tear at the moment. I think he got a 3-round average of 100, a 5-round average of near that as well. So it's hard to trade out Gutho, and I think it's an opportune time for the Eels to play Penrith, obviously, as well. We've seen Penrith haven't been the same team with, in particular, Cleary and Luai in, which is understandable, but they do have a few changes in there. The forward pack looks pretty full strength. And obviously the Eels are still without Marnie, but all in all, I think
it'll be a ripper game. It'll be a dead set ripper game. Yeah, and I think with I can't believe Niokore got off for his high charge just quietly. I only noticed that he's still in the team, but I mean on that bench they got a 4-forward bench, so I think Maddo is going to be in for the same minutes. So. In the question of if you own Maddo, do I think he's a sell? Yes, he's a sell. Because there's 4-forward bench. There's going to be a minute share. And I think Papali'i is overtaking him for minutes. Share in the team. But it's going to be a good game, I think. And I really look forward to watching it. I think it's going to be even. I'll be really interested to see whether... Because Ivan is a fucking dodgy prick, isn't he? He does love the old late change. He loves the late out. So who do you reckon? I think he has to play Jerome.
I think so. And I was going to ask you, I don't know, where's Momorowski gone? Naden's made his way back in. May's in the centres. What's happened to... There's absolutely nowhere for...
Is he suspended? I think he might...
He was suspended for a while and then sort of never got back into the side. But
there's no way to play Tyrone May instead of Momorowski in the centre wing. Anyone in there know what's happened to Momorowski? Because I don't know. You'd never play Tyrone. I don't understand where the Tyro May love comes from. Just quietly.
I don't know. He's just a bit of a Mister. He can play sort of anywhere, but I don't really see it either. To be honest, he just can play a few positions. But yeah, it should be a cracker. I don't think Penrith can afford to not have Luai play. We've seen what's happened when both of those halves don't play, and Edwards is obviously out as well, and who knows if Catewell backs up. So a big game, and Cleary's going to be missing for a few weeks. The wins are going to be pretty important for them to sort of keep inside that top two. They're probably well clear, are they? I bloody don't even know how far behind third is, but this will be probably game of the round. Realistically, Parramatta are only a win behind, so it's actually a massive game. We still got Ados. Is he here?
Yeah. I'm here.
Sorry. I wasn't sure what was going on.
So it's patting the dog. The dog was coming in and lomming all over me, and I had to pat him, and he wouldn't go away. But yeah, no, it's going to be a good game. I think this Thursday and Friday, I think they've reintroduced us back to, the normal round of football, and they've done it really well because some good games this week. Yeah, I'm looking forward to them.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the Saturday games, it'll be the Dogs taking on the Eagles. I think the biggest one here will be whether obviously Tommy Turbo backs up Ados. You've got some of those Dogs players obviously playing 17, but realistically the only viable option's got to be it'd be Luke Thompson or Josh Jackson. You'd be pushing it, I reckon, depending on his price. Would be the only other guy I'd be looking at.
Yep, I'm the same. Someone mentioned to me Topany, who's cheap, and he's starting in the second row. But how long is he going to be in there? That's the real question. So, for me, I mean, Avarillo's been good in the 7, just quietly. But I'm only interested in Thompson, meat and potatoes. But I'll be getting rid of TPJ and RCG. And I much prefer the assurity that you get from Luke Thompson with minutes and point per minute for meat and potatoes. You've got to have a meat and potatoes player in your team. And I'm happy with him. If you look at his scores, you're just like, I would have happily taken those scores every round of the whole year. That's how good he is for, consistency. So, it's all about, if you're a Saab owner or a Garrick owner, it all hinges on whether Tommy Turbo plays.
Absolutely.
Because if Turbo plays, they are all superstar options to play this week against the Dogs. You'd still play him even if Turbo wasn't playing. But, it's going to be an absolute smash-up. A lot of people are Marty Tapau, and people are interested in him for round 17. If you look at Marty Tapau over the last 5 weeks, he's been outstanding. I think he's a good buy for round 17 if you've got the money. Maybe instead of Luke Thompson, you can look at the figures and what you think between the two of them, Marty Tapau and Luke Thompson. But Marty's been going really well.
Good shout, real good shout. I like Marty. He's been a bit under the radar with everyone talking about a few of the other guys, but yeah, I reckon that's a good shout. The hard thing with the Doggies boys is it's very a 17-minded trade. So apart from Thompson, is there realistically any guy in that side that you want to waste a trade on bringing in that's going to be a keeper for the run home? Josh Jackson's not that guy, and Thompson only is because he can get him in the front row and he has that duality. You could argue Tapau is a keeper in that front row position for the run home as well. I think that's viable as well. So, yeah, fair calls there.
No Schuster over. I thought Schuster was back this week.
That's a big one.
For Manly, and I've held him, for the round 17 bye. He's not back this week. I do hope he's back next week and playing probably 6, with 4 and with Evans, Cherry Evans out for Origin. But what's the point of holding fucking him if he's not back? Where is he? I want him back, Schuster.
Yeah, it's a big one as well. He's a class player, and with Tommy Turbo in the form that he's in, you'd love to have Schuster out there running around as well. So there'll be plenty of people hoping that he backs up. Oh, well, he's back for 17. A couple debutants as well. I like a good name, and we got Falakiko Manu debuting in the centres there for the Dogs. which is a great name. I have no idea if he's any relation to Joey Manu, probably not. And Flanagan's back in the side, mate. So Paul Flanagan, if we talk about confidence of players and things like that, young Kyle Flanagan is back in the side as well. So, look, could be a slaughter. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, if Turbo plays and you've got him, put the C on him. Even a Garrick, if Turbo doesn't play, is an option. Maybe.
Yeah, good call. I think we played each other in the BJ League. Like it was the 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, where Turbo went 200, and you had Garrick as one of the pods that was going to make the difference. And I think he was on -1 at nearly half time. And he finished the game on 100 and what did he finish? 150.
150, yeah.
I was sick. Like, he still had me covered regardless, but it was looking close. I was thinking, how good's this? Fucking 40 minutes later, he's finished on 150. And absolutely amazing, Ruben Garrick. I think a couple of boys talking about him. He's over 700k at the moment. There's a reason for it. His price reflects how he's been scoring. And yeah, with Tommy in the form that he's in, you couldn't fault anyone for bringing in those two flanks for sure, because he's almost invincible, Tommy Turbo, at the moment, you'd have to say.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Garrick now is almost, like maybe you're priced out of him. But in the buy round in round 17, Cody Walker, Ruben Garrick, and AJ are your people who are going to go 100 plus, like who can go 150, so I can see the allure of people even at his price, but he's over 700k now. Like maybe if people are flush with Cleary money, but I think he's one of the top 3 targets for round 17, personally.
Well, the other thing with him is his goal kicking. I mean, it wasn't a factor, the 100. He fucking would have had -20 in goal kicks the other week.
I know, it would have been a 170.
But he scored 5 tons this season. 3 of those come in the last 4 games that he's played, which is amazing. And there's a 90 in there as well. So
yeah,
he's very relevant. And you think about, we talked about guys like Brett Morris to start the year that you couldn't pay whatever he was starting the season at for his price, and he proved a lot of people wrong. Garrett could be that guy to finish the year.
Yeah, I think he's still a target. I would still say if you don't have him, he's got to be a target if you can afford him. I'd put him ahead of Ramian. I'd put him ahead of Tupu, and I would put him ahead of AJ.
And there's no real standouts in that centre wing. Nofo is not the guy that he once was.
No.
There's no one that stands out, like apart from Toto and who else is down there until Talakai starts.
Hines has been there.
Hines, obviously, for sure. Yeah, that's a good one. But trying to find that good 3 or 4 for the run home, this guy could be one of them. So,
yep,
for sure.
Yep.
All right. It's 5:30 game on the Saturday. It'll be your boys, mate. The Raiders taking on the Titans down here in Canberra.
Yeah.
What's doing in this one? Croker's back.
Croker's back. I mean, I find it hard to not love him because he's the captain, and but I mean, I love Tomoko. And I thought Tomoko was doing a great job, and so yeah, I don't know. I feel conflicted on that, but I mean, it looks like the boys Papali is going to back up. But I mean, look. We lost to the Dragons last week, who got beaten by the fucking Dogs the week before. So I don't think things are good for the Raiders still. I mean, Papa Lee said, we got the team to make a storm for the finals in the round, in the rounds coming home. Well, I'd love to see it, Josh. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, look, the Raiders...
I'm wearing the gear, mate.
As a Raiders fan, you must just be thinking, what the fuck has happened? Because these were an elite club coming into this season, really. Like, these were pushing and had some, obviously made the grand final that year and made a prelim the year before. And like I said, an elite club that were consistently performing at that level, and that's just, these are falling off an absolute cliff. These are the faders of old, mate, definitely.
Yeah, mate. So, I mean, look, the only thing going in our favour this week is that the team that mimics our fading shit play is the Titans.
Yeah, well, they're no better.
We've got home ground advantage.
They score 30 points in 10 minutes and then shut up shop as well. So, yeah, this could be like a 50 to 42 game this one.
Get your multis on here for try scorers, guys.
Yeah, for sure. So, Bailey Simmons has still got that number 1 locked up, and obviously the Raiders play 17 ADOS. Who are the viable guys there? Like, how long Simo got that fullback spot? Obviously, CHN's probably the biggest target if you don't already have him.
Yeah, I mean, I've got CHN. I brought him in, and I think he's a great option for. And I think he's still in the 500s. I think he's got the Supercoach friendly game. I think his spot is locked down. I like Simonson at the back. I mean, a lot of people. I played him last week for his 37, but it was in. You saw the ball going backwards in that game. The wind was so strong, and none of the fullbacks had. All the backs had any opportunities in that game. So I think if you look at him at fullback, the last time he played in reasonable conditions at home, he scored a ton. I think the Titans are a bit of a weak team. I'll be playing Simonson this week. I think that last week the conditions weren't great. Would I buy Simonson? No. But I would certainly hold him, and whether you play him this week or not is your choice. But he's going to have fullback for the rest of the year. CUK doesn't look like he's back till the very end of the year.
Yeah, for sure. And who filled in? Aiken was playing fullback for a little bit as well. So he's injured, is he?
He's shit.
He's not amazing either.
So I think they gave Bailey Simonson a go. They dropped Aiken. So it's Simonson's spot. He'll play it. He'll play it now for the remainder of the year. So I'm going to just hold him because I think that 37 last week was an anomaly because of the conditions, and I think he'll score better this week. He looked great in that one where the conditions suited him. Over the other side, Brimson's back, which I think will make a big difference to the Titans. Brimson hasn't had the best year you've ever seen, but he is a quality player. And they've named Fafita and Tino to back up. If I sell Cleary, Fafita, I'm going to go push the trigger on Fafita to bring him back because he cleaned up on us last time he played us.
Yeah, and he'll have to. He won't be tired from Sunday night either because he did fuck all.
Off the bench. Yeah.
Cool, good call. It'll be an interesting game of footy, and I guess it'll be potentially a very high scoring one at that as well. And I like those options. CHN's a standout. Simonson, if you got him, is good. And I think given that the Titans don't play 17, you're looking at probably Fafitas, maybe a Tyrone Peachy in the centre wings, possibly. Obviously, they don't play 17, but there's no other standouts. But Corey Thompson is back as well, and he was on a massive tear before he got injured. I
got him in a couple of drafts. I held on to him, and he's worth $600K. But
good stash.
Yeah, you wouldn't own him, but I mean, and there's no options for you in the Titans other than Fafita if you're being real. And if you held Peachy, he's actually done well, but you don't buy Peachy, you just hold him. But Fafita's still a buy this week, and I think he will do well against the Raiders, just because I'm a Raiders supporter. And I just know how well David does against poor defenses. And I would be playing David 100% this week or buying him 100%.
I think it's CHN's on the right, isn't he? So it'll be CHN on Fafita, I think. That could be interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, CHN will be up to the challenge. He doesn't mind a challenge. But, I mean, you saw what happened to Fafita in Origin just gone. He had to run at, like, forwards instead of small guys. And he got sat on his ass every run.
He's very flat-footed, isn't he? For a big guy, if he got onto the ball, he'd be he'd be hard to stop. But he likes to just get it flat-footed and skip around. Not that, I'm allowed to say, but
I mean, the way that he skips around and he tackle breaks, his average is 95 for the year.
His tackle busts are phenomenal. He just can't.
Average is 95. So if you want to think about David, he will get 95 this week, I think.
Yeah, I think he's just tackle busting ability and the fact that he's good for a line break or an offload to a line break or tries so easily. You got to get him in. You're right.
So I would be getting him in if you can. Yep.
Yeah. Good call. All right, keeping it moving along. The next game on the Saturday, the last game on the Saturday, will be my boys taking on the Cowboys at McDonald Jones. So we're at home. Apparently, Kalen Ponga's back. I wasn't sure. Someone asked me this today. How long until he's back, and I said, "Fuck if I know." Don't even say that name to me at the moment. But he's back this week. Apparently, that could be massive for us. And obviously, with Mitchell Pearce back, that's two big inclusions. Pearce been back for a couple of weeks now. First game we'll get to see Clifford with Pearce and Ponga as a Knights fan, so we'll be interested to see how that dynamic works.
I mean, I like the lineup more than I've liked it for a long time. With Ponga at the back there, I think I've criticised Adam O'Brien, but I like Dominic Young with a bit of give him a chance. Man, I don't know, but I mean, I don't mind Tuala. I like Heimel Hunt. I'm not a big fan of Jay Clifford, but I think that he'll be better because Pierce is there. And, I think everyone benefit. He's kind of like not as influential as Turbo, but I think that Ponga will make a big difference to that team.
For sure. I think, man, that's the position he has to be picked. He cannot be picked in the halves. He's just so stifling, and he'll probably still bomb a few tries by not passing to his winger at centre, but get him a fucking away from that football, please. Get him away from anywhere in the middle of the park. Happy with him at centre. He's got a bit of, he can run the ball and do a few things.
And he can fend it.
We know he can't pass. Forwards, you alluded to earlier, Barnett's back on the edge there, which is great for anyone that might have held him, or if you've got him in drafts, which I've got.
I've held him. I'm going to hold him and sell Maddo. I'm going to hold Barnett and sell Maddo.
Yeah, well, that's massive.
I hope that Adam O'Brien has just seen that Barnett is what a team needs. You need him on there for minutes.
Well, I guess the only problem with it is, Ados, is I don't know how much longer Frizzell's out for, because it looks like Fitzgibbon's going to keep the other one once.
Yeah, and I mean,
he's back.
I think that Barney will go back to lock then, but I mean, his prospects are not going to get any worse than Maddo's are at the moment.
He's a good play this week, right? Like, it's a good play this week if he plays. Knights have got a good run home. If there's some issues with any other player and he's finding himself out on that edge. He's a good sit or start for the run home.
And I mean, he might get 40 or 50 minutes, but that's what Maddo's getting as well. And they both go at a point per minute. So you just might as well take the gamble and use the extra 100K from Maddo, to sell.
Good call. Just looking at, I usually use zerotackle.com as my injury sort of source, and they're saying Frizzell around 20 on there, so you might get a good few weeks out of Barney.
Out of Barney, over the other side, I mean, Valentine Holmes is a viable option for finish the year. I think personally, fullback you pick in your centre wing, averaging 70 plus for the year. I have eyes on Holmes, but I don't know that I'm going to have the trades to get him in.
Yeah, and he's 650K with 130 break even, and obviously with the Origin still to play, you couldn't get him this week given the break even, and then you'll miss him for two of the next 3 weeks potentially as well.
Yeah, so you might as well buy Garrick. Buy Garrick, goal kicking, and playing 17.
I do like the Cowboys' run from round 20 in particular. It's not like the Cowboys are going to flog teams, but in regards to Val Holmes, from round 20, the only top team they'll play in that finish will be, well, I guess Manly's probably defined as a bit of a heavyweight now. So,
what's your thoughts on Tamalolo?
Mate, I haven't looked at his stat line for a little bit. I'll bring him up. He's not the player he was, that's for sure. I mean, he's 475K with an 80 break even, and he's looking untouched. You can't touch him, can you?
Nah. 5 games under a point per minute for the year. I mean, have you ever seen that many games in a year? We're around 15 of Tamalolo under a point per minute.
You've broken it. What the fuck are you doing, bloody? What's his name? Peyton.
Peyton. Yeah. Look, I mean, I think that he has put a responsibility on other players in the team who have actually lifted because they're not relying on Tamalolo anymore. I just think he's got the mix wrong in games that are in the balance where he should have just broken that rule and brought Tamalolo on for more minutes. I understand what he's doing, and I think in the long run it's going to be a good thing. But I think sometimes this year he's missed the trick where he should have brought Tamalolo on in the games that were in the balance. But I think that you have to respect what he's doing for the long term, and not Tamalolo's not a buy. He's not even around 17 buy.
I mean, even there was like a bit of a patch there where he played like upwards of 60 minutes for about 3 weeks, played 70 minutes, and
Yeah.
he had a week where he turned up. But even in those 2 weeks where he played 64, 60 minutes, he only scored 53 in one of them and 42 in the other. So he's put it away a bit. He's put the weapon
Yeah.
away, and I don't think, as crazy as it sounds, like I'm just thinking, Lolo was elite back rower. I think in a show at the start of the year, I said I'm going to start with him. He'll be a top three to finish the year, even if he's playing less minutes. But that's not correct. And yeah, the scenes at 475k, and you're still not going to touch him for 17, are you?
I mean, I'm so when you see Lolo at that price, you just feel so tempted to get him.
Oh.
But it's not the same Lolo. He is not the same Lolo this year. I really, really hope that he comes back next year and he's better. But this year is not Lolo's year. He's having an off year. And he's entitled to have that with the new coach. And you saw Coach out there, talking down how much he's going to rely on Lolo. And it's reflected into Lolo's scores, No, I'm not going to be buying Lolo at any point this year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to think you might not consider him for the run home, given that he, will play the rest of the year. So yeah, it's sad, isn't it? There's probably no other standouts in there for me at the moment. Ados in that Cowboys side, even for 17. There might be a few Moneyball sort of hidden guys in there that might be a bit of value, but probably hadn't had enough of a dive in the last couple of weeks to look at it. Whether it's, I don't know, a Reece Robson, even though Granville's there, or Mitchell Dunn, or I don't know exactly who it is, but Tuolagi had a bit of a tear, but I think he's a bit unreliable as well.
Yep, but nothing much.
Yeah, I wouldn't be writing home about too much in that one.
Ah.
All right, 2 games still to go, and on the Sunday it'll be Brisbane and Cronulla. And how funny is it, after Origin, even though they don't really have any players in there, Brisbane don't play a game straight after Origin. They're on the Sunday for all their players to be rested, but I mean, Supercoach-wise, we've talked about, I think the last time we caught up, ADOS, we talked about Cronulla being very relevant after the Penrith game.
Yep.
And they are very much so starting with this game, obviously play around 17. So you're looking at you guys like you alluded to earlier, Ramians and your SJs, and maybe Talakai's. Is it still a watch? He's not getting the minutes. I brought him in a couple of weeks ago straight up, just thought, fuck it, get him in.
Yeah,
and it didn't really work out. Probably I got him at about 370, so I didn't really care. But he's not getting the 80 or the huge minutes, so I don't think he's a trap. It's just you probably haven't seen enough from him yet. But I just went early.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you have a look at him this week, you'll get a real gauge for where Talakai lies. You will see because I mean, look, he was coming off the bench, so match fitness wise, were you going to play him 80 last week?
Yeah, that's right. And he hasn't played majority of the season, right? Like he spent a fair bit of time on the sidelines as well.
Yeah, so I mean, he could just play 80 this week, and then you're a bloody genius. So, I mean, I think
it'd be the first time this year.
The price didn't burn you, so I think he's a reasonable hold and play for around 17. And for the run home, I don't think you'll score anything lower than 40. I mean, you do have Wade Graham coming back, but I mean, I think just as likely if he comes out and plays 60 this week against the Broncos, you could score 75.
Well, that's what I weighted up last week. He was at 370k with an 80 break even playing the Cows, starting on the edge. I thought there's every chance he hits his break even, blows up against the Cows. And he didn't. He's dropped about 30 odd K, whatever. You win some, you lose some. Doesn't have a big break even this week. So nailed it. Let's see. Hopefully he gets a pie or something and gets a bit more involved. SJ, like I said, he's another good one. Who else you got there? Like I said, the Ramians, which I was never again on Ramian after his boom in the last couple of seasons. I've been really big on him, the last 2 years, but he's fucking done a hamstring or something partway through a game and just killed me. But he's looking different this year. Will Kennedy, I don't think you can get him in at fullback. That's the only issue, given the quality back there and the guys scoring so big that are back there.
And the only other one is Medellino Mulatalo, who was scoring quite well because he's a bit of a try scorer, but I think they're going to push hard to try to give him the exemption to play in the next Origin. So that might put a line through him or a bit of an unknown. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So as on the Brisbane side, just quickly, you got some changes there. Tessie New to fullback, Asarko's back on the wing. Katoni Staggs is back. Obviously, with Brisbane not playing the bye, here's a guy though that could potentially be one of those fourth centre wings that you get in. I think obviously, given that he's been out for so long, the match fitness might be a bit of an issue on return. But when he's playing footy and he's fit, he's one of the best centre wings. Supercoach wise, he's potentially a keeper for the finish to the year.
Yeah, maybe when your halves aren't Tyson Gamble and Brodie Croft, he's not going to have a.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe if the price is right, and what's there? I don't know. I don't know if the price will.
I won't be bringing Stags in. Maybe next year. He's going to be playing 6, maybe. But I wouldn't be looking at bringing him in this year. Lodge has been going good.
I know it's Brisbane, but like their draw's not bad after from about round 20. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Sharks are going to beat him by 40 points, I reckon.
All right, fair call. Obviously TPG's out for. Do you get 3 weeks, a month?
You got 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Do you own TPJ?
I do. I've got him in the front row. So
are you going to sell or are you going to hold?
The thing is I think if I sell him, that's it. He's not coming back. And he hasn't set the world on fire, even though he's been at back row. Like he's just sort of like, I don't know if the motivation's not there.
Yeah, he's got the job done. And whether you hold, he's not going to come back to around 20, so I'm going to sell him. I'm going to get IPAP, and I'm going to get Luke Thompson. And I'm happy to have them as my starting front rowers. They're both dual. So,
Yeah, I'm not sure on a TPJ. I mean, he hasn't been bad. He's scoring 60 pretty consistently. It's
been good. Yeah.
I'm still a bit unsure on that one, but I got Lodge, which is nice. So he's probably a bit of a benefactor to TPJ being out because it just sort of shifts that forward rotation.
Yeah, it's been good luck.
Yeah, so I might just sit on TPJ and chuck Lodge in there to start. It might do a job for a few weeks. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Payne Haas probably the only other guy you could mention, and again, just given everything with Origin, and he hasn't set the world on fire. I
put him as my disappointment in the front row for the year in my awards show. His point per minute is way down for the year. Even his ceiling is way down for the year. I would not be thinking. I mean, Payne Haas is like ranked 10th in front rowers for the year. 10th.
He's 470k, Ados.
Yeah, I mean, so for the year.
What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, for the year, people like Lodge are ahead of him. He's not having the year that he had previously. He was almost like when we were talking about, someone that we might start the year with. We were talking about Haas, but he is not having a great year. Sorry, but the statistics show that he's not. He's 10th on the list of top front rowers. So, average-wise, you could pick a whole bunch of other players that are doing better.
Is this
he started in the 600. He's lost 200k.
If you said to me at the start of the year, Lolo and Payne Haas will be 470k in round 16, and you're not going to want to touch either of them, I would have told you to get fucked.
Yep, and that's it.
They
actually mirror each other very well.
It's crazy. What the fuck is going on?
So the numbers don't lie, and that spells bad news for Payne Haas, does it? Or
yep, and Lolo.
Yes. So look, I'm glad I missed them all in drafts as well because I did plenty of drafts this year and didn't need to worry about that now, which is great. And I think that's about it. Moving on to finish the round, it'll be the Tigers and Souths, and this could be an entertaining game of footy as well, Ados. Out there at Leichhardt, both will probably be pretty full strength. It looks like. Obviously, you got a few guys backing up from Origin for Souths. But Latrell was on fire, and he's the kind of guy that I think you'd stop him playing when he's in the form he's in. And also Cam Murray had an absolute blinder and got through a heap of work, so maybe he gets rested, but we'll wait and see what happens there. Do you see South putting on a bit of a score in this one? It was close last time these two teams played. There was a runaway try right at the end.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more like the Melbourne game versus the Tigers, personally.
Mm-hmm.
You know that Latrell's lowest score of the year is 55.
Yeah, wow.
He's having an uber consistent year. He's sitting in the top 15 or 16 of overall scores for the year. He's having a great year. Alex Johnson, he's going to get over for pies this week. So you play Alex Johnson. He's going to get pies. So is Dane Gagai. Dane Gagai is in the top 10 scorers this year. Dane Gagai is having a great year. Campbell Graham's an option. Cody Walker is a play in a... there's just points everywhere in this game for people that you might have from South. Damien Cook is having a rubbish year, personally, on where he came from in previous years. Cam Murray's hitting his straps. There's lots of options for South this week. I think they're gonna put a cricket score on them.
Mate, I think you're right. You look at guys like Gago, he's on minus 40 something break even, and he's near 600k. So there's going to be money there, and there's probably going to be points there as well out on that left side.
He's having a great year, Gagai.
That left edge, obviously Cody Walker, Latrell. I mean, Latrell, we talk about Turbo, and obviously it's been quite obvious that it was, Turbo and Teddy and Cleary had a great game. But Latrell's been one of the players of the series, and in my opinion, when he's switched on and wants to play footy, there's no one else I'd probably rather watch, to be honest. I love the way he plays. I like his aggression if he controls it a bit. But he's awesome to watch, Latrell. I love it. So it's good to see him in this form.
Yeah, in the past, I was always like, imagine if Latrell was fit. Like you always said, imagine if Latrell was fit. And all this play at fullback has made him fit, and it's a scary prospect. He is such a good player, and I love watching him play. And I think that South put a number on Tigers. I don't know, someone in our chat who's the one that chats a lot.
There's a couple.
David.
You got Hayden's pretty active as well.
And he wanted to bring in Nofo, and I was like, mate, you don't bring in Nofo. Because he's absolutely starved of ball, and
fucking
even someone like the graphics not on the screen. Bogan's one game behind, but what's his name? Dewey moved from. He was the top scoring 5/8 at round 10.
He turned to shit as soon as I brought him into my team.
But he was at round 10. He was the top scoring 5/8 for the year. But then he goes to the center wing, and he's dropped over 10 points, 12 points. So
fucking Moses Imbai, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
he probably won't even be there next season. I don't get it. No, you're right. I think Rabbitohs probably get the job done pretty convincingly. They're in a bit of form, and probably one of the only teams I can see on the day rolling one of these, Penrith or Melbourne, on the day.
They're just going to hit their straps. Just for people who are watching the show, Sean Bloor, who's an AE nightmare, he's not playing. He's hurt himself, so he won't be on the interchange this week. He hurt himself, and he's out for a few weeks, and you will not get his AE this week. I don't know who's come in for him, but he's been a nightmare because you can't loop.
Yeah, he has been bad. He was sort of touted as one of the rookies of the year and then had the injury. So, yeah, he might start the year very cheap next year. He might be a prospect for 2022.
Oh, yeah, because he hasn't made any money, so he'll be cheap as chips.
Well, you watch him start the last month of the season and blow himself up. But, yeah.
For the round 17, Colin Matangi is a choice for a lot of people because he's been scoring pretty well, Colin Matangi, and he's on that right side of the field to get the Cody Walker goodness. And I think he's an option for round 17. His price is good too.
Yeah, for sure. I think Colin Matangi, there's not many in there. You think about, they got Latrell, Gagai, Campbell Graham, there's plenty of Origin players in there. Murray, Cookie as well, who isn't relevant, Supercoach relevant this year either, mate. Obviously, we talk about Haas and Lolo at 470 odd K. Cookie's in the exact same boat at this point in the year. So,
yeah. Cook,
um,
but Cook is the biggest alarming thing because we thought that this new speed of game would suit Cook more than many other players, but it hasn't. And he sucked. He sucked the big brown bumhole. He stinks. Cook is not an option for you this year. He stinks.
It's been a bizarre year, mate. Like, you think about the way Pappy started the year and then what's happened. Asako had that big score and he's been dropped. Dewey, guys like this, Cookie, Lolo, Haas,
well, I mean,
perhaps it's just been a bizarre old year at times.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, I was looking in the other day and you look at players who are elite players. Like Ponga's played 6 this year. Pappenhausen's played 6 games. Tommy's played 8. All these great players in the game, like the superstars of our game, are playing under half a year so far. So injuries are rife this year, rife. And players that, Pappenhausen's averaging over 100 points this year, but we're in round 15. He's only played 6 games.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you can never... he scored, the 200 with the 4 tries very early on in the year. And
yeah, so from a Supercoach point of view, what can you do? He's a shit buy so far because you never got anything out of him. Like, Kando brought in Grant and got 1 game out of him, and then he's been injured ever since. He's not named this week.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. And then you look at guys like Cleary and Turbo when they have played. Turbo's played, about 8 or 9 games, and he's got 127.
Yeah.
136 3-round average, 143 5-round. Like, the scoring has been on another planet. It's just been
So if you can get on the right person in their wave when they're healthy and they haven't, they don't have injury niggles, you can absolutely rip heads off. And so, I mean, it probably bodes well too. If you actually think about it, the likelihood is that Cleary most likely will be out longer than you think. Because this year, it's been a matter of they are always longer than you think. It's not less than you think. It's always longer than you think. Back when we used to like football in the 90s and 2000s, they would rush people back quicker, but they can't do it in the modern game. So Cleary is not likely going to be 3 rounds, I don't think.
No, I agree. It's going to be really interesting. And, mate, we're only, like I said, 2/3 of the way through the year. So there's still a lot of footy still to be played and a lot of things that can happen. Like, it's only going to take 1 or 2 injuries, God forbid, to a Turbo or someone. Like, we look at what's happened with Cleary this week.
Yeah, so you need the T word. You need trades.
That's it. The money word starts with T, that's for sure, mate. So, yeah, like I said, still a long way to go. It's definitely not over, and a lot of footy still to be played. We're talking about, the year's been thrown at this point. Well, let's see what happens over the next 8 or 9 weeks. And, looking forward to the rest of the year for sure. But that is round 16, Ados. We got through it. It only took us probably an hour and a half, which is probably pretty good for you and I, mate.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a big round. I mean, we had Origin and we had a bye. We had like a rep round. So, I mean, a lot's happened, in teams and in Origin. And I'm like, I mean, clearly it's like the biggest news of the year. It's the biggest news of the year.
Yeah, it is. It's enormous, like you said, and the big 5 super trade week this week as well. So a bit of fun there. Burn those trades. If you ain't got not many left, make the most of this week and
I think
try and get it out of your system now so you can hold a few for the run.
You're a candidate for burning and just go and I reckon, I'll let me be your little Mr. Miyagi. I'm going to be your Miyagi, and let's burn your 5 and let's get you back on track for a top 1,000 finish. I reckon you can do it.
All right, let's go. I'm thinking. I will tell you what I was thinking this week, just to finish it off. That's a bit of you can counsel me through this. So I was thinking. The jury was still out on Pangai. I was thinking possibly Pangai to AFB, but now I'm not as sure.
Don't mind it. Don't mind it.
I have Crichton, Tupanua, Talakai in my back row at the moment. I do have Curran, Kickout, and Milne. Kickout has been a bit of a fucking ballser.
Yeah.
So I was thinking I need to get Tohu in, and I
Yep.
was thinking kick out to Tohu,
Yep.
but I'm not sure whether Curran to Tohu. There's only 40k difference there, but I'm Tohu's coming in for sure. Given that I have Talakai in the centre wings, though, I do also have Ravalawa, who was a pod that has got to go now. He's gone for the next 4 or 6.
Well, I mean, no, Ravelo is back this week, isn't he?
No, I think he copped a suspension. I think he copped a fucking
Yeah, but
few weeks.
he's back. He's back from his suspension.
No, he got another one.
Did he?
He got another one. He got
Is Ravalawa back?
he got another 4 or 5 weeker for a shoulder charge.
That's he led with the head again, did he?
Yeah, so he's got to go 450k. I can go him to whoever. I've got Best still fucking there. It's a fucking absolute
Best.
dog's breakfast at the moment. This fucking team.
I've got to turn my mic on. That actually reminds me of a joke I saw on Twitter during the week when Cam Munster got off. They said, yeah, after Cam Munster dropping the knee, they've suspended Ravalawa for 4 weeks.
What a joke that fucking is, isn't it? The third time Munster's fucking dropped the knees. For fuck's sake, that's a disgrace.
I mean, I was pretty shitty about that because, I mean, it's not like it's his first; it's his third in a row, and you know, the inconsistency is just huge. You know. So anyway, but I mean, yeah. So your 5 trades. I think Ramian's a good option for you, Brent. I think Tohu is a definite good buy. I think that AFB, because he'll get you a little bit of money in your front row, is a great buy. You just got to push hard. Everyone that you bring in, Brent, should be around 17. I think everyone you sell is a non-17, so I wouldn't sell Curran because we don't know 100% whether he's not going to play.
Well, I reckon now we clearly get SJ. There's $500,000. Plus the 170 I got in the bank. So I'll have nearly 700k. Ravalawa to Tohu via Talakai. Maybe go kick out of a feeder because I can.
Yeah. Yep.
And then maybe look at getting AFB or CHN in there. I'm trying to think how many I've got left at that point, but I reckon some good targets there.
Yeah, they're all upgrades. They're all upgrades, and I think that's key now. If what you do, everything that you do now, you got to look at it and go, the person I'm trading to the person I'm trading to, that's an upgrade. You know, like I'm upgrading my team for 17 or the run home, but whatever, you've got to go and say, I've upgraded.
Yes, it doesn't take much to roll. Roll it in glitter and make it a little bit more attractive as a piece of shit. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess, mate. You quickly run us through it. I know you've touched on it previously, but what are you narrowing in on this week?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I don't sell Cleary, I'm going to bring in Tohu, IPAP, Thompson, and Tupu. 100%. That's 4 trades, and I don't have to use all my 5. If I decide to use the money and sell Cleary, I'm going to bring in Tohu, IPAP, Thompson, Hughes, or Nicarima. I'll decide who I want out of those. And Fafita. I'm just going to pull the trigger on to Fafita. So that's 5 trades. But Tohu, IPAP, Thompson, Hughes, and Fafita are all premium. I'm bringing in selling Cleary. I could bring in 5 premiums.
No, they're sounding pretty immaculate trades to me, mate. I don't think you can go too wrong with those ones and put yourself in good stead for that run home. And like I said, I think you got the luxury of trade, so you're well placed at this point of the race. So good luck to you.
Yeah.
Dogs, what are you doing? You got any trades, or you haven't even looked? At least you still got the app, mate. You're doing better than someone else we know.
Yeah. I'm trading Cleary to Nicarima, and probably trading Dane Laurie to Dave Fafita via Capewell back into the centres.
Yep, good trades.
The other three, I'll suffer over until Thursday.
All right, good shit. All right. Well, I reckon that's probably about it. Obviously, it's been a bit quiet the last couple of weeks, so apologies. But again, big shout out to Ados, mate, for carrying it for us. And Bogan, you keep showing up, obviously, as well, mate. So thank you. and Climmy
Loads
and
of champion.
Kando jumping in the last couple of weeks. So much appreciated, boys, and yeah, looking forward to some footy being back on as per usual now. Obviously, we've got round 17 bye, which will be a little bit of a more quiet weekend, but
I mean, we got post Origin this round, so I think this round's going to be a tough old round, and I think that round 17 naturally, because it's a bye round, is going to be a tough old round, and I think 18, the next 3 rounds, they're tough old rounds.
Yeah, take a sort of picture of where you're at now, and then have a look come the end of round 18, like you said, and see how you've done, because you've come out of that green arrows. By the end of it, you're probably doing well, and potentially, this is your time to strike. So use those trades wisely, and good luck. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in. I still got a fair few online. Must be the lack of heads hasn't put them off. They've hung around.
Everyone's locked in.
Love you all.
They can't go to the pub.
You're champion.
Yep. Like, rate, subscribe, all that stuff. We're nearly at 500, Breno. We got to get people to subscribe.
Oh, fuck me. What do we do is get 500? Seriously, I'll just make 4 fucking YouTube accounts or however many we need.
No, we'll get them there.
Don't forget to jump onto Adrianosaurus Rex on SoundCloud, isn't it? SoundCloud?
Yeah, SoundCloud and Spotify I'm on at the moment.
Yeah. I put out a little bit more content, mate. TLT today, did you not?
Yeah, I mean,
TLT show or?
Yeah, I did a little TLT. I was excited about TLT, and I was getting a lot of questions about Cleary, and I was getting sick of it because I don't know about you, but I get a lot of messages, So sometimes I say to people, just listen to the podcast, and I'll answer all of that on there, and. I just wanted to cover the TLT and what if you're going to sell Cleary, what does that look like for you? If you hold Cleary, what does that look for you? And round 17 options and what I think are good people for round 17. You'll be happy to know Brandon put AFB as a good buy on round 17. He's a good buy. I did a TLT. Sometimes I I only ever do the Sunday unless I've got a special or unless a TLT is an interesting one. So have a listen. I mean, in the game show where I did awards for the year, I told the story of the maggots. I don't know if you heard that one.
I haven't heard the maggots one. Is that the one before TLT?
That's the one before TLT. It's a story when the missus left a bowl on top of the sink and it got full of maggots. And when I saw myself with maggots on my hand, I fainted and I had a dental bill at the end of it. I even attached a picture to my post as well of what I look like at the end of that. So,
hold on, you fainted because you saw some maggots
on my hand. I saw maggots. Yes.
Do yourselves a favour. I think Ados tells some of the best stories I've ever heard in his last few podcasts. In particular, there's one about a dead possum, and then also about some antics after a night out. And it is fucking quality listening and quality content, guys. So do yourselves a favour. Jump on to Adrianosaurus Rex on SoundCloud and now Spotify and go and have a listen to those ones.
Thanks, lads. Well, I mean, on the next one, we're going to have Mana, who's a regular of the BJ on Game Day. He's going to be on the podcast. So, good old Mana is going to be on there. So listen, if you like the BJ on Game Day, he's going to be on there.
Absolutely. And not taking anything away from your Supercoach knowledge, mate. Your Supercoach knowledge and content's top notch as well, but your fucking stories have me in stitches. So
thank you.
That's why I shout
they're all true stories too. I mean, getting on the you look at if you want to go to the old the Turbo's Hammies Cup, there's the picture in there of what I looked like after that maggot story.
Oh mate, it's cracking stuff. So get listening, guys. Also, Turbo Hammies Cup, Ados, yourself and Kando, the bit of the brains trust behind that one. The boys run the page and the comp well. Fucking have not looked at that for a while. You'd be doing a bit better than I would, Ados, but look up the Turbo Hammies Cup Facebook page. You've got all of the current, Supercoach content creators on there competing in a league, battling it out in a bit of a cash league. So jump on and check that one out as well. It is a good comp. And yeah, you can get all the up-to-date where the ladder's at, and also the week-to-week matchups, including checking out the pods in each matchup gets posted on there as well, which is awesome stuff too. So if you listen to a few of the podcasts or whatever, or you just want to see how some of us boys are going, jump in there and check that out as well. But otherwise, I think that's about it, boys. Unless you've got anything else to mention, I reckon we'll probably cut her off there.
Yeah, mate. Good. Thanks for having us. Thanks, folks. Good luck, everyone, out there this week. It's a tough old week, and tell us. Send it off to the group if you're going to sell Cleary or not, because I'm still up in the air whether I'll do it or not.
And if you're a long way behind, fuck it, go for it. All 5. Get rid of Cleary. Yeah. Use that money to fucking try and find that pod to save your season.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think if you're 10,000 and below, it's time to be fearless.
If in doubt, flat out, pull the trigger.
Yep.
All right, boys. Thanks, Ados. You're a legend as always. Cheers, Bogues, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you all next week. Have a good one.
Be GameDay champions.
All right, that's